Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today is the launch of Innistrad double feature on Arena, so this will be my very first draft of the format. This is what happens when you take all of the cards from Innistrad Midnight Hunt, all of the cards from Innistrad Crimson Vow, and mash them together into one draft format. Every pack in this draft is going to have 2 rares in it, and you do get 1 Dracula card style each time you enter this event. It's the same entry fee as any other Premier Draft or Traditional Draft, being 1,500 gems or 10,000 gold, and you are getting a little bit less gems than any of those other drafts out of this one, so it is going to be harder to make your entry fee back, and I think the reasoning behind that is you are getting Dracula card styles no matter what, plus 2 rares in every pack, but that is something pretty important to note. It's going to be very hard to go infinite in this format. We need to get a 5-win run to break even, whereas in a regular Premier Draft, at a 4-win run, you're going to get 1,400 gems and a pack or 2. So basically break even at 4 wins normally, but here, not till 5. So with that format overview out of the way, let's get into some Innistrad double feature drafts. Hopefully all that we've learned from Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt individually can be put to good use here as we mix the sets together. So let's get into this draft, and if you want to catch me playing more of these drafts live, I will be live as you're watching this on Twitch the day of release, so you can check out the link in the description below for that. Alright, here we are with our pack 1, and unfortunately, although we do get 2 rares in one pack, that doesn't mean you're always going to get a bomb. Triskaidekaphile has always been a bit slow. It's a fine card, but it's definitely not a pick 1, pack 1, and Shattered Sanctum is just a dual land, so nothing much going for us there in our rares. Our uncommons are solid. I do like Twin Blade Geist. It's a decent little aggressive card that can slap onto a flyer later to really speed up the clock, so that card's quite solid. Circle of Confinement as well is pretty good. Removal for any cheap cards, cards with mana value 3 or less. Cigar's Imprisonment is removal for basically any creature. Heron of Hope's one of the best white creatures from Crimson Vow. This card races just really well with that lifelink plus adding to your life gain, so that card's always been great. Siphon Essence was a solid counterspell. Hobbling Zombie was a solid little death touch blocker. Not the most exciting pack ever. Ghoulish Procession never managed to do a ton, but it was fun. I think I'm on for one of these white removal spells. My only issue with that is I am passing a lot of good white. That feels like the best cards I'm sending down the line. So what do we have here in pack 2? Blood Tithe Collector was solid. 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. If you damaged your opponent or they lost life this turn, then they discard a card when you play this. So that card was pretty solid. Cruel Witness is solid as well. Mischievous Catgeist is a nice disturb card to slap onto some flyers or unblockable creatures. Diver Scab is a nice exploit ability, get something out of the way. I think those 4 are my favorites here for sure. Blood Tithe Collector, Mischievous Catgeist, Cruel Witness, and Diver Scab. Flip the Switch was a fine counterspell in Midnight Hunt as well, because you had a lot of good uses for the decayed zombies. So what do we want to do here out of all of those? Kind of feel like Blood Tithe Collector. I mean, I think it's pretty on par with the rest of these cards, and I'm sending a really big blue signal if I take that. So I don't really want to take one of the blue cards and then pass down a bunch of great blue. So let's see here if we take Blood Tithe Collector. Although, I mean, if we keep getting past Great Blue, then maybe we are still supposed to jump into that. But I do like Audric's Outrider. 4 mana for a 2/4. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So as your creatures are dying, you're getting value out of them. Pretty nice. That being said, some great blue counterspells here. Both of these exile the spell when you counter them, so you're stopping any graveyard shenanigans, which is pretty nice. Some solid red removal. Burn the Accursed and Markov Retribution. In black, we have Gift of Fangs, which is decent early game removal against non-vampires. In green, we have Shadow Beast Sighting, which is nice. 2 creatures on the 1 card, even if the second 4/4 requires 7 mana later in the game. Just a 4 mana 4/4 is fine. I think I just like Audric's Outrider here. Maybe I'm overvaluing the card a little bit, but I have been a really big fan of the morbid trigger on this card, the Death Rattle effect. Ooh, nice. And now we see another white card here that I really like, although there's an Organ Hoarder still in here. I have passed a bunch of blue, but Organ Hoarder is the mythic rare common from Midnight Hunt, the best common in that whole set. It's 4 mana for a 3/2, and you dig through the top 3 cards of your library, put the best one into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard. Organ Hoarder is just an absurd card. A 4 mana 3/2 that like draws a card when it enters the battlefield would still be like a solid card, and this one draws your choice out of the top 3. Just really, really good. Gavony Dawnguard is also really good. If you can flip between day and night, you're digging through the top 4 cards of your library, grabbing any creatures with mana value 3 or less and putting them in your hand. So if you can be flipping between day and night a lot, the Gavony Dawnguard is going to be great. But yeah, Organ Hoarder, just like the best blue common in Midnight Hunt. I'm going to scoop it up here because if nothing else, that's somewhat of a blue signal. Again, I've been passing a blue signal to my left, so might not be ideal how things have gone early in the draft, but seeing an Organ Hoarder there, I do want to scoop it up. So Seize the Storm is a really fun card. I love to drafting around this card. I don't think it's actually that great, but it's fine. If you're running a deck with a lot of instants and sorceries, you can run this to make a giant elemental creature with power toughness equal to the instants and sorceries, then flash it back and do it again. So really good in a flashback themed deck. Some decent little black creatures here, Doomed Dissenter, Shady Traveler, nothing much going on in white or blue. Shadow Beast Sighting solid in green. I don't really think I'm committed to much of anything here, so I'll just take the most fun card in the pack. I like Seize the Storm. I don't think it's the best card, but it's just a card that I quite enjoy playing with. Shadow Beast Sighting might be probably the better card, because it's just more consistent what you're getting out of it, and it's a little cheaper. So now I think I like Chaplain of Alms. Card's just a pretty solid deal. 1 mana, 1/1 first striker. Once that dies, you can bring it back for 4 mana as a 2/1 flying first striker. It also makes all of your creatures harder to target once you've disturbed it. Blessed Defiance was a pretty great combat trick, because you let your creature trade up, you gain some life, and you spit out a 1/1 spirit. Just all those abilities stack up together pretty well, but Chaplain of Alms just seems like a pretty solid, uncommon, aggressive creature there. Alright, well I'm happy to see at least one of the colors that we've dabbled in is open enough here. We're seeing good white still. Kindly Ancestor, I think, is the best of these 3. Just makes it really hard for your opponent to outrace you. You're getting a 2/3 lifelinker onto the board, and then you get to slap lifelink onto a creature of your choice for only 2 mana from the grave. So slapping that again onto any flyer or unblockable creature just makes it really, really hard for your opponent to outpace you in damage output, because you're just gaining all of the life back. So now we have Vampire Interloper in black. This is a card that would work pretty well with our Disturb cards in white, so we could pick that up. Chill of the Grave is an okay blue card. Don't know how well that's going to work in white-blue. Heron Blessed Geist, I guess, would be okay in our white deck, because we're going to have enough enchantments to probably consistently trigger that other ability. And Cathar Commando is just fine, a little aggressive 2-mana card. I guess to be safe, I should probably just take a white card here, because that's the only color we're definitely playing. So we grab Cathar Commando. It's our first 2-mana card, helps us fill out that slot on the curve. I'm very happy to see a pick 9 Heron of Hope here. I think that card is great, and it's especially good with cards like Kindly Ancestor that put more life gain on your board. So now, almost nothing playable in here except for like Flip the Switch was a fine playable back in Midnight Hunt, and Flare of Faith is an okay combat trick, but I'm not in love with it. Yeah, Flip the Switch isn't that great either. I guess we take Flare of Faith just because, again, we're just definitely in white. Syncopate and Devious Cover-Up still in here. Really nice. I think I like Syncopate a little bit better. The flexibility on it is really nice, being able to counter something. If you're on the draw, you can counter your opponent's 3-drop for only 2 mana, which is pretty important. That's like one of my favorite things to do with Syncopate, with its flexibility. And I guess we get Devious Cover-Up anyway, because these other cards are not particularly playable. So we'll just get one of each, I guess. Candlelit Cavalry. Pretty whatever. Alchemist Retrieval is fine. For 2 mana, you bounce whatever non-land permanent you need, and for 1 mana, you can bounce your own Disturb card to recast it as a creature later, which is pretty cool. Alright, another pack, another pile of poop rares. We've got Patchwork Crawler and Willowgeist, both of these far too slow and far too specific to have been basically any good in their respective draft formats. Wouldn't really take either of these cards highly, and I would try not to run them just in general. So not a fan of either of the two rares in this pack either. So what else is going on in here? We do have Lantern Bearer if we end up going in blue-white, and this is one of the best disturb cards, giving flying and +1/+1 to whatever creature you slap it onto. So if we end up in blue-white, that'll be great. We got some solid blue counterspells late in the last pack. That Organ Hoarder was a pick 4, and we've got more blue cards than any other secondary color here, so I could see going down the Lantern Bearer path here. Nothing in white here is all that exciting to me. Best white card might even just be the Blessed Defiance, but I'm going to take the Lantern Bearer there, potentially be in blue-white. Right, and it looks like that's going to work pretty decently here. These rares are not that great. Once again, Curse of Surveillance, just a little bit too much mana, a little bit too slow. This is basically a 5-mana enchantment. Now you get to draw an extra card every turn. Just a bit slow for the format. Although maybe the double feature format's a bit slower. And Necro Duality, you have to be a zombie tribal deck. We have like one zombie so far. It's not really going to work for us. So I really like Phantom Carriage here. This can be just a big late game flyer to close out the game, and it also grabs a flashback card or disturb card, tosses it into our graveyard. We already have tons of disturb, and we could probably pick up a little bit of flashback, so I like Phantom Carriage a lot here, just a big game ending card. But Traveling Minister is also quite a nice cheap common, and it combos really well with our Heron of Hope. So Traveling Minister is also a solid pick there. And now we see Dualcraft Trainer. If I remember correctly, back in Midnight Hunt, this card was an absolute house. If you can trigger the Coven effect, this card is going to eviscerate your opponents. It's a 4-mana 3/3 first striker, but if you have Coven, so if you have 3 different powers among your creatures, so 1 power creature, 2 power creature, 3 power creature, something like that, then you could just get to give a creature double strike every turn. Really good for like a blue-white flyers deck. Just give your one creature that's hard to block double strike each turn. Yeah, I like Dualcraft Trainer here for sure. And now we see a Fleeting Spirit, an excellent 2-mana white creature here. I like it much better than the Cathar Commando because it protects itself. Just discard a land from your hand, exile it, bring it back to the board, and later in the game, it can start getting first strike and killing creatures it has no business killing. So really nice card there, the Fleeting Spirit. Cradle of Safety is solid as well, but not as good as the Spirit. Larder Zombie is also good in a deck with a lot of decayed zombies, but we're not really the deck for Larder Zombie. All right. Wow, yeah, things are going pretty great here. Now we see a Drogskull Infantry and a Gutter Skulker. Both of these are great cards to disturb. Gutter Skulker giving that unblock ability to one of your creatures, and Drogskull Infantry just being a great 2-drop to get on the board and trade early and still have some value out of it later, thanks to its disturb effect. Only have 2 actual 2-mana creatures right now, but I've got 2 1-drops, Chaplain of Alms and Lantern Bearer. I think I still have the room to pick up the bigger kind of game-ending sort of cards like Gutter Skulker over the Drogskull Infantry. But I do need to start getting worried about my curve. Oh no! Organ Hoarder or Voice of the Blessed? Voice of the Blessed is good with enough life gain, but currently we only have 3 life gain cards? Maybe even just 2. We have Kindly Ancestor and Heron of Hope. We have 2 cards that combo with Voice of the Blessed. We could definitely start picking cards that combo with it highly if we see them, but I don't even know if we will. Organ Hoarder is always just fantastic. It's gonna look like a weird choice to those, but you really cannot underestimate the power of Organ Hoarder. So now we have Nurturing Presence and Dawnheartgeist. Both are fine, but pretty filler. Never drafted the like Nurturing Presence deck some people made in Crimson Vow, where you would like throw this on a flying creature, then you have even more flyers out, and they're just getting bigger and bigger throughout time. Pretty spicy. I don't know, I'll try a Nurturing Presence here. That Dawnheartgeist would have definitely been the pick if we took the life gain card there, but no life gainers in this pack. Yeah, neither of these are that exciting. Just take a random mob. Looks like we're just going to take a bunch of stuff that's not going to do well for us. Could try to play a Sun Gold Barrage, but these games are going to be best of 1. So if we are playing against like a vampire deck or something, it's not going to kill very many of their cards. or just like blue-white or blue-black. There are a lot of decks this won't kill a card in, so I don't know about it. Siphon Essence I do like. Counter any creature, Planeswalker, and get a blood token. Definitely love the Evolving Wilds here. Get some mana fixing in the deck. Well, late Eccentric Farmer. The green Oregon Hoarder. It's an Oregon Hoarder that only pulls lands out, but it's still solid. Alright. Pack 3. Pick one. What do we have here? 3 really solid cards, only 2 that work particularly well with our deck. Memory Deluge, an excellent draw spell at instant speed that helps us hold up those counter spells that we've picked up and gives us just a ton of card advantage. Or Storm Chaser Drake, which works really well with our Disturb cards and gets us aggressive. So this is kind of a turning point pick here, where do we want to lean into our more aggressive cards or our more defensive cards? I think I'm going to take Memory Deluge here. It's just a very good rare, and it makes our counter spells a lot easier to play around with. And I think our deck is doing a lot of things that are really good defensively. We have a ton of life gain. We have Oregon Hoarders like drawing cards and cluttering up the board, and we've got some late game like big stuff to try to get to. So I'm going to go for the more defensive build rather than the more aggressive one. And now the pick is between Ambitious Farmhand, pulling out a land from our deck and flipping into a lifelinker potentially, or Circle of Confinement to get rid of small creatures. I think I like the Circle better here now that we're more defensive, but Ambitious Farmhand is a pretty great card. Firmament Sage has always been a bit too slow. Blessed Defiance would be solid. Cathars would be solid. But I think these two are the top 2, the uncommons. Great rare here, though, for red decks. Olivia's Attendance is a monster. Alright, I like Fierce Retribution for sure. 2 mana to destroy an attacking creature, or 6 mana to destroy any target creature. Love slapping that in the deck. Another Investigator's Journal. We've seen one of these earlier as well. This is another one of those cards that just feels way too slow generally. I like Falcon Abomination here. Get a nice little flyer in the deck. Or another Cathar Commando. We've got not a lot going on at 3 mana, so I like filling out that curve with a nice flying Falcon Abomination. Now we have a Startle or a Covetous Castaway, and that's about it. Definitely a bigger fan of the Covetous Castaway here. We already have some good self-mill stuff going on with Oregon Hoarders and stuff. Phantom Carriage to get this in the graveyard to spit out a 3/4 flyer. So yeah, Covetous Castaway should be sweet in this deck. Don't love Piercing Light, and I don't love Militia Rallier. So I kind of like the Dissipate here. Another counterspell, this one exiles as well. Seems solid. Ooh, Easy Gutter Skulker, it's the only card in our colors. And it happens to be a good card for our deck. Ooh, blue-white must be wide open. We see Dorothy, Vengeful Victim. 2 mana for a 4/4 flyer. When she attacks or blocks, sacrifice her at the end of combat, and then she comes back as an enchantment that lets whatever you enchant spit out a flyer attached to it every turn. It's insane. Very, very good bomb. Super happy to see that nice and late here to get added to the deck. Kind of like Vampire Slayer here over Component Collector. This card's just really, really slow, and now I want to make sure I have a lot of 2 mana creatures to slap Dorothy's Retribution onto early in the game. We have 19 creatures, so we have plenty of creatures. Don't think we need Clarion Cathars, especially because our 4-drop slot is so full of great cards like Gutter Skulker and Oregon Hoarder. So I'll just take the Blessed Defiance here. And then, I guess now it's the Cathars. Wedding Invitation it is, but I'm probably going to cut that. It's a fine filler card. For 2 mana you draw a card when you play it, so no matter what it replaces itself. And then you've just got that activated ability on the board for a later time whenever you need to break in for some damage. Just sacrifice it, give something unblockable. Gives unblockable and lifelink to vampires, so it's solid filler in vampire decks, and it's just filler in non-vampire decks. But it serves its purpose. Alright, we get to cut 9 cards out of our blue-white Disturb deck here. And it's looking like probably some of the 4-drop creatures here. I honestly think even Audric's Outrider might be too slow for this deck, and we might be cutting a lot of creatures here, so we don't have a lot of stuff dying to put counters on things. I think Unruly Mob's definitely our weakest creature. We don't have like a lot of Disturb tokens comboing with it or anything like that. Non-creatures, what do we have that's the weakest? Nurturing Presence, Flare of Faith, Alchemist Retrieval. That is 7 cards to cut if I just cut all of that out of the deck. And this would be 4 creatures down, so this would be a 16 creature deck. I think that's about where I want to be here. 17 is your very average, just regular mid-range draft deck. And I'm okay with going a little bit lower on the creature count to do some of the, just stack of removal and counters with some good card advantage spells, control shenanigans, control plays. Maybe dropping a lower creature count, we drop all the combat tricks, so we drop Blessed Defiance 2 even though it's solid. And then we would still need to cut 1 more card, so probably just 1 more like 2-mana creature here, or 1 4-drop. We've got so many 4-drops here still, but I really like all the 4-drops in this deck. And I'm happy with where things ended up, passing that white life gain rare, because you look at our final deck here and we've got like 1 life gain card. Yeah, just Kindly Ancestor pretty much. Kindly Ancestor, Heron of Hope, so just the 2 life gain cards. That's not enough to focus on like a synergy there for the hard to cast 2/2. Again, we could have taken them more highly, but then we would have been playing some more mediocre life gain cards in here over the other solid picks that were in those packs. Just go ahead and cut those out. 1 cut to go, and I don't think it's going to be a land here. Our curve is right around 3 as the average. We definitely want to keep hitting mana consistently to 4 mana at least. For sure, because we have a ton of 4 mana stuff. Maybe we cut 1 of the counter spells here, like a Dissipate. I do like that this exiles, but I feel like the blood token from Siphon Essence might be more valuable. Although this does counter any spell, whereas Siphon Essence only counters creatures or planeswalkers. If we cut the Siphon Essence instead, all of our counter spells can counter anything. Just counter target spell, counter target spell, counter target spell. Yeah, I kind of like that. That seems fine to me. The blood token from the Siphon Essence is good value, but now every counterspell in the deck exiles and counters any card that we want it to, which is also nice. And then we have the deck, just your basic 17 lander here. And our biggest rare is Dorothy the Vengeful Victim. Getting revenge. I don't know the lore, but it's a revenge story of some kind. Alright, so here's a final look at the deck. What we have decided upon here, it is going to be blue-white Disturb with a good chunk of control in it. Several solid counter spells. Some great card advantage via cards like Memory Deluge, Double Organ Hoarder, and even Phantom Carriage, giving us the pseudo card draw of putting a Disturb creature in our graveyard. We've got solid removal spells, Sigarda's Imprisonment, Fierce Retribution, and Circle of Confinement, along with the stack of counters to keep us alive from any wild bombs our opponent plays. And in the meantime, when we don't need to kill or counter anything, we're just going to be attacking in with some decent flyers or slapping on these solid Disturb auras to our other creatures. So that is the deck. And we'll go ahead and get into the gameplay, see how far we can take it. Alright, here we are, game 1. Definitely going to keep this hand. It's a little bit slow, not doing anything until turn 3. But nothing that is worth a mulligan. Playing against blue-green, and they start with a turn 1 Lantern Bearer. Probably the best blue common from Crimson Vow. Great card. And here's a Consider from our opponent, throwing an island into the graveyard and drawing a card. Third land. We're not going to Fierce Retribution this 1/1 flyer that also gives value from the grave. That seems like a very bad idea. There's a Briar Bridge Tracker, a 3 mana 4/3 Vigilance. As long as they control a token, Yeah, that's why it's a 4-3. If they get rid of their clue token, it'll only be a 2-3. That is not good at all. 4-3 Vigilance? I think we might have to just Fierce Retribution that. But even if we do, this card gave them great value because it took a removal spell from our hand, and it's just going to draw them a card anyway, replace itself when they crack that clue token. But if I just play Falcon Abomination here, then we're taking another 4 because we can't just chump block that. We would stop Lantern Bearer from attacking us, but we would not chump block the tracker, so we'd be down to 14 here. Just don't want to take that kind of damage. Now they just have some 1/1 flyers. I can take 2 damage and play an Organ Hoarder, or I can play a Falcon Abomination and stop that damage immediately. 17 here. I'm cool taking 2 for a moment. Dropping the Organ Hoarder first, making the most of our mana. Well, that's some lands, don't want that. We'll grab a Vampire Slayer. Now at least on turn 5 we can play a 2-drop and a 3-drop together. Oh no. Alright, Briarbridge Tracker into Consuming Blob it is. A 5-mana 3/4 ooze. Power equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard +1 at the beginning of their end step. Create another ooze with the same effect. Not sure there's much we can do about that. We don't have another removal spell in hand, and we did not draw any counter spells this game. So this Consuming Blob might just consume us out of game 1. Yeah, that's wild. That's a card you have to have the counter spell or the removal spell up the turn it comes out. Otherwise, even if you kill it, they've left behind an ooze. 2 very, very good rares from our opponent. Both are resilient, because even if you kill the card itself with Briarbridge Tracker, they still draw a card off of it. With Consuming Blob, even if we kill the card itself, they still got plenty of ooze tokens out of it. So that's not ideal. This is not looking great. And a Screaming Swarm from our opponent as well. Big old flyer. Put some pressure on us. It also mills us, but that's kind of good for us. We kind of like that they're milling us. Oh yeah, I was going to say, why do they only have 1 ooze token? It's because I killed one. Traded my Organ Hoarder off into one of the ooze tokens. Number of card types among cards in your graveyard. We could shuffle their graveyard back in with this, can't we? 3 cards from your graveyard. No, Ghostly Castigator only shuffles our own grave back. That is unfortunate. Probably just play Phantom Carriage then, so we have a 4/4 flyer to block their 4/4 flyer, but then they can just enchant it with +1/+1. But it's the best we've got. It's the biggest flyer we've got here. Grab Dorothy's ability. Grab Memory Deluge, try and draw something out of this. I don't think we have any outs. We would just need to have like a Wrath effect here, I think. Oh my god, alright. Briarbridge Tracker, Consuming Blob, Grafted Identity it is. This was my biggest fear about this format. Crimson Vow was a very bomb-heavy format, and in this draft format, we are getting 2 rares in every pack, so I assume a lot of this format is going to be pretty bomb-heavy too. Which is part of why I valued the counter spells a lot higher than I usually do. That's why we're running a deck with several counters and a good chunk of removal as well. But if you don't have the counters when the stuff happens, it's still going to come in and wreck your soul. Grafted Identity, Consuming Blob, Briarbridge Tracker. Excellent deck from our opponent. That is absolutely going to take that game. Alright, here we are in game 2. Another keep. I like having the Syncopate. One of the reasons I like the flexibility of that card, even though we don't have any plays our own until turn 4, we can stop our opponent's best early play with this to make sure they don't just run us over real quick. Unruly Mob is definitely not going to be their best early play. they can't get anything else onto the board, then it's not going to be particularly threatening. Yeah, I'll drop a Fleeting Spirit here. We'll let the shields go down when we have a Fierce Retribution in hand. I'll probably drop down Organ Hoarder next turn as well. Worst case scenario, they drop some big bomb creature. We'll just kill it with Fierce Retribution. And we'll have the Syncopate up turn 5, most likely. There's a Dissipate or a Vampire Slayer. At this point, I don't know how much a 2/2 is going to do. I like having the Dissipate and we can just hold up a bunch of counters. And Fleeting Spirit is now going to be active for its first strike pretty soon. We've got 2 cards in the graveyard thanks to Organ Hoarder. Alright, Twin Blade Geist coming in. That's going to be a trade for the Organ Hoarder. And then they'll still have its ability in the graveyard. I'll just take 2. Kindly Ancestor. Can hold up Syncopate. Still cast this. I like that. Sure. Get in with Organ Hoarder as well. Oh wow, oops. I clicked on OBS instead of Arena, my bad. Alright, so really like Kindly Ancestor here because it keeps Twin Blade Geist off of attacking us and it really makes sure we win the race. We still get to hold up the Syncopate, counter that big old dork there that's costs more mana to target it once it's on the board because of the ward ability. Just get that counter out of the way and we still have Dissipate for their next card. And now we even have the cards engraved to give Fleeting Spirit first strike, so we absolutely win the race here to just attack all. Twin Blade Geist 1-for-1 trades for Fleeting Spirit if we activate its ability. It 1-for-1 trades for Organ Hoarder. Alright, they're going to trade with the Organ Hoarder there. That's fine by me. Lets our other creatures get in, and Unruly Mob is now a 2/2. Now we can hold up Fierce Retribution alone if I play this Gutter Skulker. I can hold up Dissipate to make sure nothing wild goes wrong. I'm going to play Gutter Skulker because we'll have the 6 mana for Fierce Retribution next turn to where I can target any creature with this. So even if they resolve some big scary card, we can get it off the board after that. The biggest reason not to play Gutter Skulker would be if our fear is a Wrath effect from our opponent. Alright, make a really big Unruly Mob. Super big and double strike. So we'll just get rid of it and then hold up Dissipate for whatever they play next. And we should have this on lock. You just have to hit them with 2 of these creatures, so we'll let 1 creature resolve and then anything they play after that gets countered. Primal Adversary. That spits out a bunch of wolves, doesn't it? Yes, it does. We'll counter that because that's going to be multiple blockers, enough to keep them alive another turn. And a Herald of Hope is not enough to keep them alive. That is 1 blocker with no mana to give it lifelink for the turn. So there's the concession, and we're now 1-1. Alright, here we are in game 3. Mildly worried about the mana, only 2 lands here, but we are on the draw. I think it should balance out. We've got a great turn 1 and turn 2 play. Ideally we hit 2 more lands, but even just 1 more land to be able to cast this Dissipate would be in a good spot. I suppose that's only if the land's an island. And by turn 1, turn 2 play, I have been corrected, because our first land does come into play tapped, so Lantern Bearer will not be coming out turn 1, so it's a turn 2 and turn 3 play with these 2 cards. Alright, no lands as of yet. But looks like the same is true for our opponent. No, they're just going to main phase 2 the land, potentially. I'm pretty sure I'm on the back foot here. We're on the draw and we're potentially missing land drops. Yeah, I think I'm just going to stop as much damage as I can with this Fleeting Spirit. It's not a great trade for us. The Mind Leech Ghoul is definitely the weaker card. But if we can survive to the late game, I think this hand takes over. With Organ Hoarder, Memory Deluge, Devious Cover-Up, these are going to be some big swings, all of them. I'm just going to hold on to Dissipate here. I don't see much point in like getting aggressive with a 1/1 flyer. We're playing the long game. Just counter that. Alright, once again, hold up Devious Cover-Up if they play something big. If they don't play anything good, we'll Memory Deluge instead. Reckless Impulse is a draw 2. Sure. Creepy Puppeteer. Alright, well we know that's coming next turn. So we'll Memory Deluge, then we'll Devious Cover-Up the Puppeteer next turn. Ancestor Land is pretty good. We do still want some lands here so we can cast a spell and still hold up Cover-Up. Although an island would have been ideal. So only 1 mana card is blue. Alright, no Puppeteer. Do I even want Evolving Wilds? Not really. Dissipate Fleeting Spirit, get back in there. Not shuffling a Memory Deluge back because we can flash it back for 7 and do another massive draw spell that way. We now have 6 mana, so we're 1 mana away from the Deluge. No counters to hold up here, so I like dropping Organ Hoarder, seeing if we hit that 7th land, potentially. Organ Hoarder Vampire Slayer seems good. We do it at Dissipate or the 7th land. We're going to be a little butthead here today. I'm actually just going to draw the counterspell. And if we don't naturally draw the 7th land, then I'll just play a Kindly Ancestor and hold up Dissipate. There's a Courier Bat, no life gained though, so just a 2/2 flyer. Alright, we don't naturally draw the land, so Kindly Ancestor Dissipate it is. Our creatures can attack in really well here, because we're fine with these trades on board. And I'm not particularly worried about the Crackback up at 17 life and playing a lifelinker. Shady Traveler. Menace creature. It's not that bad, but I'm going to be a butthead about it. Yep, and there's the concession from our opponent. They're not a fan. They are not a fan of my deck, and that is fair. Alright, round 4, 2-1 thus far. Pretty solid hand. No interaction, none of our counterspells or removal. But both of our colors and some creatures to dump out. Ooh, there's a turn 2 Dorothy now. Yeah, let's do it. Hopefully I don't have anything to exile a card from our grave, because if they do, they can exile Dorothy before we can disturb her. Although I could wait and not attack with Dorothy until the turn I'm going to disturb her so they can't exile her. That actually feels pretty good to me. I'll play Falcon Abomination here and just not attack. Not attack quite yet. I don't want her sitting in the grave to where they can just play their 4th land and then play the 4 mana 2/3 that exiles a card from my grave and drains me for 2 life. That is a common. This Toxic Scorpion's gonna get in for 1 damage as long as it wants. As long as it wants. And I suppose, if I don't care that much about them exiling Dorothy, I could just play Dual Craft Trainer and let Dorothy hit them for 8, because we give Double Strike the turn we play Dual Craft Trainer. That is pretty wild. That is pretty dang wild. Just hit for 10 in the sky. I think, you know, I feel like hitting them for 10 in the sky is worth the risk of them having a way to exile something from our grave. I just think it's more likely they have something to kill a card on our board than something to exile a card in our grave. They could have both, and then we're really sad. But I feel like it's more likely they kill Dual Craft Trainer than they exile Dorothy from our grave. And Silverbolt will kill Dual Craft Trainer. But they're going to hold on to it so they can kill whatever we throw Dorothy onto, which is definitely fair enough. If we play a 3-power creature, like a Gutter Skulker here, Dual Craft Trainer does give Double Strike again when we go to combat, so they'll have to kill Dual Craft Trainer before we go to combat to shut off the Double Strike. Oh wait, what am I? No, I am incorrect. That's another 3-power creature. Once again, Coven proving that I do not know how to count. Do we want to let Dual Craft Trainer die to a combat trick? We have the card advantage here, so it might be okay. All we have in hand are 2s and 3s. Yeah, Dual Craft Trainer's not going to give Double Strike again. For a while. It doesn't combo with Dorothy's Retribution. Dorothy's Retribution doesn't spit out the 4/4 until it already triggered the beginning of combat thing. I didn't even realize they don't even need a combat trick, but they do have one regardless. Just forgot about Toxic Scorpion's Death Touch somehow. Alright, well, they're at 10 life. We'll just keep getting in with Gutter Skulker then. Especially since they haven't had a way to exile Dorothy yet. They still don't have a way to exile Dorothy. We just slap it on a Gutter Skulker and just really get in. Just go to town here. Fortunately, more removal will do it. Still have Gutter Skulker's ability in the grave, which is pretty good. Let's get in for 2 while they're tapped out. Do like the Vampire Slayer to trade with the Scorpion. Candlelit Cavalry, uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's big. Well, there's Syncopate a little too late. That's 9 damage on board. Everything's bigger than ours. We have our counter spells, not our removal. I think that does it. Make some chump blocks and try to draw something next turn, but we'll not get there. Alright, so here we are now in round 5, 2-2 thus far. Definite keep here. It's got all of the things we're interested in. Playing against blue-black, turn 2 Bait Hook Angler, very concerning. Very concerning. I'm just going to exile that. Circle of Confinement can only exile small creatures anyway, and that shuts off its ability to disturb into a flyer, which is nice. Here's a pointed discussion, draw a couple cards, get a blood token, take a couple damage. I like Kindly Ancestor here, but I could also go Chaplain of Alms and Cathar Commando. Spread my board wide. Yeah, I like that. We'll see what they're doing here turn 4. Champion of the Parish, and they'll play another zombie that spits out a decayed one, like the 3-mana 2/2 flyer, something like that maybe? No, just a Champion of the Perished. So probably like a Startle in hand or something. Spit out a decayed zombie and shut off our power so they can kill our Chaplain of Alms when we attack in out of nowhere. Yeah, this is probably a Startle. That'd be a really bad deal for us. I think we just imprison this champion. Because blue-black, that's the decayed colors. They're gonna make this at least like a 3-3 sometime real soon. I think I like just imprisoning that, and then they're not allowed to do any of their tricks with it. Just gonna Fading Hope it to hand. And scry 1. So Startle, for those who don't know, it's a 2-mana instant, gives a creature -2/-0, and they spit out a 2/2 decayed zombie, and they draw a card. So if they had Startle there, and we just went in on combat, Champion of the Parish would turn into a 2/2 because they spit a zombie out. Our Cathar Commando would just be a 1/1, and they would eat our Cathar Commando, keep their 2/2 on the board, and draw a card. They would just be up massively in that exchange. So we really don't want to let that happen. So they milled our Lantern Bearer, so that was pretty helpful. You just slap it on Cathar Commando, put them down to 10. Actually pretty cool for that. Pretty cool with that. I've got a must-kill threat on the board, and they are going to go ahead and kill it. Make them crack their blood token here. And then the commando doesn't get exiled as well. So force them to crack the blood right now when they might not have a card they want to discard. So yeah, they choose not even to crack it. So that is just gone. We'll take 3 down to 17. That means Chaplain Bombs gets to get in for 1 here. Now 5 mana up, I could play 2 creatures or 1 creature with a very threatening ability, the Gutter Skulker. I don't think it's time for an Organ Hoarder right now. So we've got more plays still. I like just keeping pressure on our opponent here. Putting out a creature that's really hard to block. If it attacks alone, we're just hitting for 3. And if they kill it, we're just throwing that onto something else later. I'll keep taking 3. Down to 14 now. There's the champion. And an Organ Hoarder. So nothing to block this Gutter Skulker, nothing to kill this Gutter Skulker. Ooh, Memory Deluge. Unfortunately that costs 4, so we can't play that and play a creature this turn. Which I quite want to play a creature this turn. So I'm going to go Ancestor Vampire Slayer. I just want to clutter this board a bit. Get some lifelink down as well. They're dead in 2 more attacks from our Gutter Skulker currently. This is a very good blue-black deck from our opponent. Blue-black Decayed, Disturb. They got Bleed Dry in there. They got Geralf. All their zombies now have flying. That is horrific. Plus the sacrifice ability is very, very good, especially with a 3/6. They can turn into a 6/6 flyer. Goes to our turn. They're going to go ahead and tap down the Gutter Skulker. Even if we Memory Deluge, we can't draw a 1-mana counterspell. So that resolves. We probably get slammed by Geralf here. Okay, we just can't block any of their stuff. It's all flying. It's going to get even bigger. They're down to 6 though, so they can't really attack until it's like an Alpha Strike for lethal. So if we just keep putting creatures on the board instead of just drawing cards, then keeping enough pressure to maybe convince them not to attack all. Let's go Organ Hoarder here. Over the Deluge. It digs almost as deep, like we're digging 1 card less. But we're also putting a 3/2 on the board, which is pretty important here against their 6 life. Biolume Egg. Incredible combo with Geralf. When they sacrifice that to Geralf, they're going to get a 4/4 flyer from Geralf and a 4/4 potentially unblockable from the Egg. And they scry 2 just when they play it. So really, really good with Geralf there. Very good deck from our opponent. And here goes the Biolume Egg combo. Champion of the Perished plus Giralf. Didn't even realize that combo, but that's another incredible synergy. Every time Giralf turns something into a flyer, that Champion Perished is going to get another counter. And then they have a Malevolent Hermit as well, so we can't counter anything, or they'll counter that by sacrificing the Hermit. Super good deck from our opponent. Very well drafted. They have the great commons and uncommons, like Bleed Dry, Lantern Bearer, and stuff. And they've certainly got some scary rares as well. Just can't get there here. Let's see. If Gutter Skulker ever untaps, then maybe if I draw my card that gives double strike. Alright, yep, there's Malevolent Hermit. It's just going to counter that. We didn't have any choice. All we have are non-creature spells there. Opponent is in the think tank. Hardcore here. And they have lethal if they just crack the lands to the Biolume Serpent and make that unblockable. But they might be worried that we have destroy target attacking creature. So they go for a Lantern Slip on Biolume Serpent? I mean, it's the same thing, it's also lethal. A little bit of a weird line. I guess it's like theoretically safer, because that way if I do have the removal spell, they don't lose 2 lands permanently, but if I have the removal spell, I just kill them on the crackback, period, so a little weird, but it is an alternate way to find the lethal for sure. That is 2 and 3 for the first double feature draft, but that will not be my only double feature draft for the day. If you want to see more of these drafts, you can check the Twitch channel in the link in the description. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the format and just seeing how it plays out generally. From my first experience here in this draft, I think we could have gone like 3 and 3 for sure. I think not the last round, but the second loss that we had, I could have played more conservatively with Dorothy, rather than like immediately slapping her onto that flyer there, and then they just had the defenestrate. That was really the turn that kind of sealed the deal for us in that game where we actually got to play Dorothy. It was because I spent the turn just slapping Dorothy as an aura onto a creature that died to removal spell. That was where our opponent managed to flip the momentum around in their favor. So had I played more conservatively and just played more creatures and waited on Dorothy till later, it might have played out better. But my concern was always that they were just going to play like the common 4-mana 2/3 and exile her from the graveyard. So I was like, if I don't get her out at some point, they're just going to exile her eventually. They'll draw into something like that. But honestly, didn't work out that way. Should have just kept playing more creatures first. Hopefully tried to draw out all the removal first that game. So I think that game maybe could have been a win. We maybe could have got a 3-3 here. But other than that, some wild stuff from our opponents in the other games. Just some really good decks, really solid synergies, and really solid bombs are going to take it from us there. So yeah, that is going to end today's video. But again, I will be playing more of these drafts tonight on the Twitch channel, as well as I will be doing daily videos of Magic Arena on the channel. So there will be plenty more double feature drafts in the near future if you stick around for that. This is the worst intro I've had in a long time. My thoughts are scatterbrained, but thank you all, as always, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.